of all times. There is a book by Carl Bernstein.
The chamber has allowed you some latitude in making your statement. That is consistent with the practice in this tribunal. But you have to be careful. It is questionable whether a lot of what you're saying is relevant to the case. And certainly it would not be admissible in evidence. But a broad historical sweep is to a certain extent permissible in an opening statement. But you must discipline yourself, particularly if you want us to consider favorably your request for additional time. Proceed.
The nature of this secret alliance is written about by Professor Smilja Abramović in her book. Although the three fiery Catholics, Brzezinski, Casey, and Walters, prepared the ground for the alliance, and although President Reagan at the most prominent places in the administration appointed Roman Catholics, for example, Alexander Haig, whose brother was a bishop, it would be wrong to claim that the Roman Catholic faith was a decisive factor in the policy of the United States in that period. The administration of the United States did not see an expression of religion in the alliance, but the power of the church as an institution, which has been placed in the context of real politics. Washington used the Vatican or the Roman Catholic Church in the same way that it will try to do a bit later with Islam. Through this alliance, the reshaped geopolitical shape of the map, a new aggressive political planetary bloc was created, which will have the most fatal consequences in relation to Yugoslavia. End of quote. The words of prominent intellectuals about the role of the Holy See were confirmed by Mikhail Gorbachev, who said in La Stampa in 1992, everything that happened in Eastern Europe over the past few years would not have been possible without the participation of Pope John Paul II. End of quote. In Eastern Europe, over these past few years, Yugoslavia was broken up in blood, a state whose creation the Vatican wanted to prevent during World War I, and in whose breakup and bloodshed, the vast bloodshed which accompanied this breakup, it took part once before supporting Hitler, the Ustasha state, and the Ustasha crimes in the course of World War II. The Vatican's policy towards Serbia was shaped, as is evident from the quoted letter from 1914, and also dating back to the time before the creation of Yugoslavia. After the Kingdom of Croats, Serbs, and Slovenes was created, this multicultural state was considered to be the main barrier in the spread of of Catholicism to the east. That is why the policy of Pope John Paul II and the Catholic Church in general, at the time of this Pope towards Yugoslavia, constitute just the final phase in the activities of the Catholic Church in the breakup of Yugoslavia. I will skip a series of examples of meetings held from 1991, during 91 and during 92, which confirm this, but I will include this in the text that I'm going to submit, because time does not permit me to quote all that I have prepared. Following the recognition of Slovenia and Croatia, followed by the recognition of Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Vatican suddenly adopted a peace-making policy. It was proposed in 1994 that the Pope visits Zagreb and Sarajevo. The Vatican diplomacy viewed the expulsion of Serbs from the territory that they lived on for centuries in Croatia in the Storm and Flash operations. And I will remind you that Lord Owen called the Storm operation the greatest ethnic cleansing in the territory of the former Yugoslavia. The Vatican dubbed those actions as the recapturing of the terrain, this territory where Serbs lived for centuries. On the 19th of October 1995, the Pope said about that in certain situations, use of force is not ruled out if this is necessary for the defense of the justified rights of a certain people. In such situations, we're talking about a humanitarian intervention in order to protect human lives. No human lives were threatened at that time, nor were there any attacks from the UN protected zones or from Krajina to the areas surrounding them. Contrary to the Srebrenica protected zone, from where attacks were conducted throughout that whole year, and when hundreds of villages were attacked and a lot of the Serb population was slaughtered, a retired chaplain, and I'm saying chaplain for the interpreters and not captain, he stated in Pittsburgh in January 1999 that the Vatican is to blame for all the troubles that occurred in Yugoslav territory, and that he personally saw bank accounts of the Vatican confirming that the Catholic Church, together with the German government, destabilized Yugoslavia and caused a decade of bloody events. He claims that the Vatican pumped in millions to separatists in Yugoslavia and that the Catholic Church was very active in the events in Croatia and Slovenia. It is well known that the Vatican and the press supported the demonstrations of Albanians in Kosovo and Metohija in 1989, and they did the same. And this was also done by the Ljubljana and Croatia archbishops. The Pope supported the demands of secessionist Albanians in Kosovo and Metohija in 1994. He was the first one to call for energetic action against Serbia in 1998. And then he turned into a peacekeeper on the 30th of May when he called the ambassador of the NATO member countries and started an initiative to stop the war against Yugoslavia. And he also wrote a letter to Clinton to stop the bombing over the Easter holidays. When we have all of these activities of the Vatican in mind, which relate to the breakup of Yugoslavia, the message of the 12th of May 2000 sounds frightful when the Pope said, we cannot and not recognize the betrayal of the Gospels committed by our members and the voice of consciousness, and we ask for forgiveness of the sins of the Catholic Church. Professor Milja Abramovic, in her book Opus Dei, recalls the critical reactions to this statement, underlining the following words of Leo Leindecker, a Dutch religious scholar. She quotes him, "The Pope expressed regret for what was done in the past, but there are no indications that he is thinking about changing his behavior in the present. As far as the United States is concerned, it has its own interests in the area of Eastern Europe and the former Yugoslavia. The mutual antagonisms and conflicts, the impoverishment, and the inability to function independently in the political, economical, or any other plane of the little countries created in the former of the former Yugoslavia are a favorable ground in order to implement the United States economic, political,